And it's Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services tonight, coming to you from the National Press Club in downtown Washington, D.C., and have a chance to talk with our friend from the Pace Association. It's been the marketing manager, Cameron Ohlers. And Cameron, Pace put together a nice conference. We've completed the first day. You just heard Montana Senator Steve Daines speak to the audience. What were some of your impressions of the first day of the Pace TPCA Summit?
My first impression is that being my first endeavor into compliance and regulation when it comes to making telephone calls, it's very, very informative. I learned a lot. Still a lot to define in my case, and I think not much has changed with the TCPA over the last year. However, still a great opportunity for everyone to get together, refresh a little bit. We heard from the FCC. Tomorrow we will hear from the FTC, and I think it's a great opportunity for everyone to advocate as well for organizations that are really trying to take care of business and conduct business in a compliant way.
Sure. Mike Rasher, the chairman of the Pace Association, led off welcoming the over 200 participants in the meeting here at the W Hotel in downtown Washington. We got a chance to hear, I had not seen, heard in person before, and ask a question of Tucker Carlson from Fox, and also yet it's a Daily Caller, major business blog post, and he really pointed out the difference in perspective with the upcoming election of people who live in urban areas, particularly Washington, New York, Chicago, probably LA being the same category, versus how the perceptions of so many people in other parts of the country. And he had his certainly very enthusiastic way of presenting his point of view.
I would say it was very colorful, to say the least, but the jolt that we all needed to start off the day, I think. Tucker, I mean, he made a lot of very great points, and interestingly enough, he had a lot to say about Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton, which I found out later that the Daily Caller published an article today regarding her email scandal, with evidence linked to her trying to destroy the emails, which was very interesting to me after seeing him in person. As we all know, he's the editor-in-chief, so very interesting stuff.
Okay, and then we heard from a regulator, as you mentioned. We had Mark Stone, who has spoken to the group before from the Federal Communications Commission, and he lighted the problem caused by robocalls and how many complaints they get. He said they get 200,000 complaints a year about robocalls, the most of any type of source of complaints from the public. And that's something that they really are trying to take action on, and the TCPA does limit automated calling, especially to cell phones. And then, of course, and the area which is really attracted a lot of attention on this is the debt collection area, which is certainly part of financial services, certainly part of the banking business that our company, CBSI, is involved with. So he made a couple of strong points.
Absolutely. I think the most interesting takeaway that I had from that is the fact that the FCC is not only trying to protect the consumer, but they really are trying to work with organizations that are trying to work within the confines of the regulation. So in my experience, I think that was it was very uplifting, and instilled confidence that I have within the industry. Absolutely.
Sure. Then we had a team from Newstar. Becky Burr, who is one of their attorneys, talked about the impact of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which certainly is impacting banks, certainly some very big recent cases. And then Doreen Cass, one of their VPs of sales at Newstar, talked about the challenge faced by just how frequently phone numbers change in the United States. I would think with portability of phone numbers that would have declined, but he said still about 45 million U.S. consumers change their phone number during the course of the year. Much of that is landlines still, and the challenge that has to those in the call center field under a very high standard to be able to know when a phone number changes for an individual, so they're not calling the wrong person who's now a different person who has that phone number.
Yes. And with that said, I think it's absolutely amazing what they are able to accomplish with that data. Dorian went through a sort of system that they utilize to categorize each type of contact that an organization has within its database. So it's amazing that they're able to distinguish that change between someone and actually look at the call history, so on and so forth, to help people stay compliant.
Yeah. And then Lawrence Del Russo, an attorney with Drinker, Biddle, and Reith, talked about the impact of the Fair Labor Standard Act, which will have a new revision going into effect December 1st, which has the effect of significantly increasing the minimum salary or hourly compensation for many non-exempt workers. He pointed out that a person now who makes $23,000 a year would make $47,000 when this new bill goes into effect just in a couple of months on December 1st. So that's a big impact. We had Nick Whistler from McMurray, Peterson, and Schuster come up and talk a little bit more about some of the impact of the TCPA. And really, and reminding the members here that it affects both small and large companies. And some of the new things. He said something called the Soundbound, something that called the Avatar type of program, which is really a hybrid between live calling and recorded. And there's something being looked at. Even something like Google Voice, which allows a call to be reach multiple phones. So it could reach a landline, it could reach a cell phone, could reach an office number for an individual. And then we had Christine Riley, our friend from now with Manat out in Los Angeles, defense attorney, talk with Christopher Dorr of Edelson PC about a landmark case that was, a ruling came out in May, Spokio versus Robbins, and that's apparently the case. It's a hot topic in this field of what's appropriate in terms of call centers, and so there was a lot of back and forth. Christopher Dorr was representing the plaintiff in that case, and talking about. He made the point later about, how do you stay compliant? He said the most important thing is to keep good records and to have sound practices. And that would avoid a lot of liabilities that he encounters. And so then we finished today with a nice talk from Steve Daines, the senator from Montana. Talked about his days working in China for P&G and then founding his own cloud computing service company. And that was really very well received by the members. Great to see him.
Absolutely. I thought it was hilarious. He told the story about the time that he spent in China, relating it to a tattoo that his son wanted to get on his foot, stating "made in China" because he had two children over there. But nevertheless, I think one of the most important things that he mentioned was that he was very much concerned with what was going on in our industry, and that he was willing to advocate for us. And he mentioned that really does start from the top. And with the upcoming election, that's something that he's keeping very close to the chest when advocating for whatever candidate makes it into office.
Absolutely, and tomorrow, the second day, will be very exciting with some members of the group, as many as 50, going up to Capitol Hill to speak with members of Congress about the issues in the contact center. Always make the point about how many people are employed in the contact centers. It's in the millions of people that are in the field in the United States. And there has been a trend to come back and bring programs back to domestic call centers from overseas over the last couple of years, I'd say. And then we're going to see, as you said, Cameron, we're going to hear from Lois Griesman from the Federal Trade Commission. And someone who's really an expert, Michelle Schuster from McMurray Peterson and Schuster will give us an update on the appeal that the PACE organization and other interested parties are making on the TPCA revision that came out last year to see if, as everyone says, some common sense reform can be made to that would really help the industry try to serve customers in the best way possible. So Cameron, great to chat with you about the conference. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
It's Cameron Ohlers, who's a marketing manager for PACE, and we're glad to be here in Washington, D.C. tonight, coming from the National Press Club, and tomorrow will be day 2 of the PACE Association TPCA Summit. So coming from our nation's capital for CBSI Services, this is Ken Kraetzer.